All right, before we started this lesson, before I started videoing, I gave everyone a half slip of paper that said sequence, first, next, then, and finally. So make sure you get that paper from me before you start this demonstration. What you're going to do is follow along, pause if you need to, and just kind of go through the process of trying to blend those flower petals. And what you're going to do with that half sheet of paper is eventually write down what would be your step number 1, your step number 2, which is the next, step number 3, which is the then, and then your step number 4 finally. So you're going to kind of write down the process you would go to blend an image from white to black. And then when you're done, completely done, I'm going to give you an exit class, question. So please make sure that you listen throughout the video so you understand the directions. Don't just watch it. You really need to listen to me. I know you get tired of hearing me, but it does help to listen so you understand the process. And then pay attention at the end. I'm going to ask you some exit questions. If you have any questions, come and talk to me.
Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you guys all, after I go through this demonstration, you're going to get a piece of canvas paper. This is like canvas. I don't know how to explain it. Like you'd see like a painting canvas stretch, but it's not stretched on a frame, but it's thicker. We don't really want to use paper because the paper is going to crinkle up. And what we're going to do is we're going to do flower petals. It's just easier. I can make you do cones and cylinders, but I know you guys are tired of that, but we're going to do some different techniques. So you're going to do black and white on 3 of them, and then tomorrow we're going to do some colored ones if we get that far, and then we're going to do some texture techniques on that. So you can vaguely see my outline, and I'll go through this with you here in a minute on how to put that on, but I'm going to show you how I do the paint. So number 1, when you get the paint, you don't want a ton. Okay, that's enough just to get started. And you never need a lot of black. And you want to dampen your brush first. So you might want to put that on that one line or the next one. Dampen brush first. So you want to get it wet and then dry it off. And I'm going to talk to you on how to do the next 2 steps here. So you can write them down, whatever. All right, I'm going to use a little bit of a bigger brush. I personally like to start with the lighter of the 2. Okay, so we're just going black and white. We're going to go white and gradually go to black here. So white, light gray, middle gray, medium gray to black. I'm going to take the white and I'm going to paint, and it's hard to see, okay, about halfway up, because I know my white, and you want a generous amount. Okay, so again, at this point, you guys are writing down what you want to write down in the then and finally. And if you need to add more on to the back, if I didn't give you enough spaces,
what we want for then and finally?
Yep. Just so you remember how to do this. And like I said, it's hard to see. I'm going to try to zoom in. See it a little bit. So I've gone halfway. I'll show you a couple different ways to do this. So now I'm going to clean out my brush, or I can get another brush, and I'm going to add in the black. And I'm actually going to add a little bit of water to the black. The water will thin it out, but you don't want it super thin. You want it enough to that it goes smooth. All right, if it's really dry and clumpy, and we're going to try to keep it in this petal here. And I'm going to go right up next or close to that white. Get as close as I can. This is the toughest part, is keeping it contained in an area. If we're just going back and forth, it's easy. Like I just went outside there. All right, now I'm going to rinse that out again. So I've got my 2 colors right next to each other. Now I'm going to water down some white, and I now that my paint or my water's all dirty. And you always want to dry it off. Sorry, you can't see everything. I'm going to zoom back up a little bit. So I got a watered down white here, so it flows easy. I'm going to start down here. Okay, I'm not starting right at the edge. And I'm going to go back and forth. And I'm going to go up, and I'm going to go into that black. And see how it starts blending it. The hard part is keeping it contained within that area. And then I'm going to rinse it out again. I'm going to do something different this time. I'm going to go back the other way. Rinse it and get it wet. Now I'm not even going to put any black in here. I'm just going to leave it dry. I'm going to go over it because this is still wet. This black is still wet. And I'm going to go back and forth this way. You're going to notice that it goes further in here. And then it's kind of like your pencil pressure. I'm going to start lightening up just a little bit with my brush, going back and forth. And like I said, the hard part right there is those edges because it's fuzzy. Try to get it somewhat zoomed so you can see it. And basically what you do is just kind of go back and forth. I'm going to show, like I said, I'll show you a couple different ways to do this. This is just one. And I'm going to go to a different brush. So I'm going to go smaller. I'm going to actually add a little bit of black in there. And again, notice I'm going back and forth this way. The way it's blending, you just want to kind of blend that in. If I went this way, I'll show you one area. Okay, if I go back like this, see, we don't want that. See how if we go this way, so whatever direction you're going, that you want the blend to go. So if I want to add more darkness here, then you just got to use your problem solving skills here. So I'm going to add a little bit more black and I'll go back and forth. This white is still wet. That's why it's blending. If this was dry, it would not be working. Okay, and then as I get into this white, I'm lifting up a little bit on my brush. Now, that's still really choppy. I'm going to show you how you can fix that. One way is to take a damp, clean brush, and it will act kind of as a blending stump. So it's clean and it's damp. Now I'm going to go this way instead. And again, you're going to have to kind of figure out which way to go. There is no right or wrong answer, but just softly going over the top of this. See how it blends in those lines a little bit. And it takes a lot of going back and forth and cleaning your brush and to get it right. So it takes time to make it look good. And I may have to add a little bit more white in here. You can go back and forth. So that's one way. Okay. Again, it takes a lot of practice. So that's why you're going to do at least 3 petals. Try to go light to black. Now I'm going to show you one other way, and then I'm going to let you guys experiment. Another way to do this is kind of do the same thing. Start out with your white, but I'm not going to go as far up on the white on this one. I'm going to go about the quarter of the way. And you want plenty of paint. You don't want it that it petals or puddles, but you want it kind of thick. Okay. Then I'm going to mix my next color. So if I want to do a light gray, which color do I want more of? White. Okay, so you want to take, remember, black's very overpowering. So I'm going to just take a little bit of black and add it into that white. Notice how it didn't take much and it's already that really light. Then I can be careful you don't slop it like I just did. I'm going to go ahead and go right over the top of this and put this in. And then I'm going to make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to add a little bit more black. Go over the top of that a little bit. So go ahead and kind of get your blending. But when you do this, This all has to stay wet in the process. As it dries out, it's not going to work later. Then I'm going to go in with the black at the end. I'm just going to do a little tiny bit here. Then you can do a couple different things. You'll have to see what works. Let's try just the damp, clean brush. So again, I'm going to start in the white, go back and forth, go over that. See how one blends into the other. And then I may have to go back in with another brush and go the opposite direction. So you may have to kind of go back and forth and try it a couple different ways. See if you can blend it down one into the other. This is starting to dry out down in here. Another thing you can do, you guys will have to do this on your own. You can bring in a water bottle, a spraying water bottle, and you can mist this just a little bit, and it helps keep it wet, but you can't over mist it, so you got to be careful with that. So it's a lot of just kind of going back and forth and practicing.
All right, now you are going to complete at least a minimum of 3 petals on your own. Try to get them shaded or gradually blended as best as you can, and try to keep it right nice and neat around the edges. Again, that's the toughest part. So try to keep it nice and clean around the edges, but also as smooth as you can with the blending. After you are done, you're going to take that half sheet of paper, that sequence paper, and you're going to flip it over and put your name on this, and then you're going to tell me what went well, what worked well for you when you were blending, and then what did not work well when you were blending. All right, answer those 2 questions and hand that half sheet in to me once you are completed. When you're done with that, you can move on to the next part of the boot camp.